show about that right now, American Gypsy or some crap like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stereotype. It's not what the culture is about. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the Arabs are like this, psychics are like this, black people are like this, women do like this. It's
very stereotyped.
Extremely.
Especially, what do you think in like the movies and cinema?
Dude, come on.
Uh-huh.
Now, part of that is a thematic device because you can't actually express what it feels like for a person. Do you know what I mean? Not every clairaudient hears it the same way. Does that make sense to you? Do you know what a clairaudient means? It means we hear. Okay. So not every person who hears a voice the way that you're hearing my voice right now.
Uh-huh. So it's like dramatized?
Sure, because otherwise, how do you explain to a dude what menstrual cramps feel like? Okay.
How did you personally come to find your gifts?
It never occurred to me that I was different.
Uh-huh.
I just was born that way, so it never occurred to me that I was doing anything special. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, it was more, my dad called me downstairs. My mother always knew, because she would watch me interact. My dad didn't really get it, although I'm sure my mother had told him. But one time he called me downstairs and he told me he needed me to go shopping, and I said, I know, and I rattled off the list to him. And he looked at me all funny, and I thought, what did I do wrong? What did I miss?
Yeah.
Because it never occurred to me, we never had the conversation. So he gives me the money, sends me to the store, and calls my mom and says, you know what she just did? She just told me the whole shopping list. But the thing is, it's not because I'm trying to be psychic. Yeah. It's like, when I'm covering my face, I'm trying to hear what they're saying so I can get clear, so I'm blocking extrasensory, alternate sensitive stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like my brain's going, okay, I'm going to be psychic now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to focus in on this conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it only became apparent to me that it was a deal when my dad had that experience with me, and then my mom was allowed to take me to class. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are functioning from their gifts are functioning from their gifts because they're in homes that are unsafe. And it will make those gifts come on stronger. Just like adrenaline kicks in so you can run. Sorry, I talk with my hands. It's the same thing. Those senses come up so that you have a way of knowing. Do you see what I mean? The problem is we're oversensitized now because too loud music, always in our phones and always on games, we're so disconnected, do you know what I mean, that we're not listening to the voices that are around us all the time. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you hear like more voices than, say, the first person, or no?
I would say I have all of them. I was just using clairaudient as an example because like I have a colleague who sees things, and it's weird because when she's talking and she's seeing a thing, it's so interesting because it's like, what? And when I look, I go, oh, okay, I see what you're seeing. You know what I mean? It's like being put in her vision. Do you know what I mean? When she's responding to something. Like for her, it's the same as if you were sitting in that chair.
So she feels like...
She sees them.
Okay.
And she hears voices, but she also sees them. So, there's energy of what you're seeing, so I know that she's seeing, she's having a psychic moment, as opposed to she's having a voices in her head schizophrenic moment. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's being able to know the difference. Because you can be schizophrenic and clairaudient.
I see there's like a lot of different iconography in the store. Does it have a root somewhere?
The store is just kind of for fun.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we try to remember what we are. Mm-hmm. But like if you look at the swords, although some people use those for magical purposes, swords are fun. Mm-hmm. So some of the stuff is just for fun. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff relates to what we do, like because people use those because the images evoke responses so that when you're focusing your intention in it, it's more. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, have you seen the little ducks with the raincoats?
Yeah.
They're just, you know why they got them? Because they're just fucking cute. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some things have symbology. People are coming, like the deities, like if you went back there, you have the Greek gods, the Roman gods. That's because, like, some people who worship from a Wiccan point of view may be looking at a pantheon that's Greek or Roman or Egyptian. Mm-hmm. So some of those are for that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So do you think that religion and psychic, there's like a connection kind of?
It depends on the religion, right? Yes, because psychic is just the way we speak to spirit. Yeah. Religion theoretically is also a way that we get to spirit. The challenge comes, well, religion and spirituality don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. But you could find your spirituality through a religious dynamic.
Yeah.
Or in reaction to a religious dynamic. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Why would you say that some religions look down upon like psychic interpretations and such.
At this point, some of it is just misguided information down, but a lot of it is, and no disrespect, but if you look at the Catholic faith, the way that's set up is the Pope is like the guy that God talks to, and he can have a determination on whether you go to heaven or not and stuff. If I can talk God directly, which is what Jesus was talking about, why I need the guy with the hat? So sometimes they don't want us to do that because it makes us harder to, I want to use the word corrupt, but what I should say to you is harder to hypnotize into behaving a certain way.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? If I know God loves me no matter what I do, you can't tell me I'm not worthy and I'm going to be all, and paying money to the church for, because the Catholic Church in particular, and I'm sure other churches do it too, had something called dispensations back around the time of Martin Luther before him, where you could buy a piece of paper that would get you into heaven or get you out of trouble for something from the church. So sometimes they don't want us to do it because they don't want us to be empowered. Sometimes they don't want us to do it because it would open up free thinking. Sometimes they don't want us to do it because it would cause us to not be as compliant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I know you're going to rip me off, I'm not going to let you rip me off.
Yeah.
Got it? You've had that sense, right? When you knew something was off about something, even if you didn't understand it and you knew you had to be more careful. I shouldn't go here today. I'm not sure. Learning how to be in the flow. Does that make sense? Things. Part of the reason you were attracted to this assignment is because you're able to do things not judgmentally. Like most people would have not liked how I spoke with them and left already. You're open and you're supposed to write, but you're being lazy. It's almost as if you're afraid that if you were as smart as you acted as smart as you are, no boy would like you. Do you get what I'm saying? You don't want a dude that needs you to be stupid to like you. Does that make sense? You're good looking, you're a hard worker, your brains work, you're creative. Your job is not to give up on the things that are your dreams. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have a tendency to give homework because I believe that one of the things I do believe about reading is we're just looking at energy opportunities. I don't believe, years ago people used to believe that our lives were fated and there was no options. I don't believe that that's true. So the energy that I'm looking at is to help guide you. Or am I going in my direction of what I want or away from the direction of what I want? Do you know what I'm saying? So I tend to give homework to make sure that people are able to go in the direction of what they want, if that makes sense. Does that get sense to you?
Yeah.
They also say don't be afraid to say no to boys. I don't think you have problems with that. It's not that. You're nice and you have a hard time when people put pressure on you. The other part of it is you're very young, so it makes it even more difficult for you to trust your instincts. Does that make sense? Don't be so worried that people think you're a bitch.
Okay.
Because the success that you're capable of having, some people are going to think you're a bitch. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Woof, woof. When people tell me I'm a bitch, you know what I say? Woof, woof. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, is there an issue between you and your dad where he doesn't understand you? You're having a hard time explaining something to him?
Yes.
You know he loves you, right?
Yeah.
Nothing personal, but I wouldn't be surprised if you told me you were first or second generation, that you guys hadn't been here for very long, right? You realize that he has come to a country that's not friendly to him. Because we don't like immigrants, and we especially don't like immigrants that don't look a certain way, and you happen to be in that category, cute as you are. He's trying to protect you, and he's trying to keep you safe. Do you know what I mean? Plus, you're bucking thousands of years of tradition with your free thinking. Okay? Be patient with him, because he's not actually trying to oppress you. He loves you and wants to keep you safe. And he doesn't understand most safe doing what God sent you to do. Does that make sense? Okay? Be patient with him. Because he's very tender and very sensitive, and you're scaring the shit out of him. You know that, right? You're probably giving your mother a heart attack because you didn't want him to kill your dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He won't stop you. He just needs to know that nobody can hurt you.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And I would be very surprised if they don't end up being very proud of you, him especially. I could see very tender, very sensitive. I don't know if he cries in public, but I totally get that he's that guy, right?
Yeah, he doesn't cry, but he's very like...
Very, yeah. They're telling me to tell you to stop wasting your time. Do you know what they're talking about? You don't have to tell me. It's none of my business.
No, probably like partying and stuff.
Dude, I'm not saying don't be young and don't have fun. Don't waste your time. Let me rephrase. Stop trying to fit in. Does that make sense? Some of us are just weird. I'm the weirdo in my family. When I was a kid, my sister would say, You're such a nerd. Oh, God, you're so weird. I'd rather be freaky weird like me than miserable bitch like you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. They're also telling me to tell you don't worry so much about the travel thing. It'll happen.
Happen to what?
Don't worry so much about being able to travel. It'll happen, but you have to learn how to be appropriate. Don't be in such a hurry. What are you, like 19 or something?
Yeah, I'm 19.
Dude, relax. You're not going to die tomorrow. You ain't got to be in a hurry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. They also say that it's really important you learn discernment because you're good at telling the truth, but you're not so good at knowing when to shut up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm like this. I can't help it. I make it a point not to walk up to people and tell them shit. On very rare occasions, if Spirit asks me to relay a message, I will. Dude, that's why the writing is so important, because it'll allow you to wake people up without getting in trouble. Like, I'm not saying you have to be a reporter and tell the truth that way. I'm saying you could go experience the world and then write other kinds of stories, fictional stories, to tell the truth so that you're helping people think about a thing without getting crucified for it. You know what I'm saying, right? That will help your father relax a lot. You get that, right? And don't be afraid to tell boys no.
Okay.
Which means they don't care if you party as long as your partying doesn't make it difficult for you to say no when you know you should say no. Do you like vomiting? Do you like being nauseous? Fuck that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Don't worry so much about what people think of you. Unfortunately for you, you're going to be mature before the rest of the people around you. Oh well. Then you can inspire them. Does that make sense? They say that if you're able to give yourself permission to do these things, you will be able to find a partner who might freak your dad out. But then your dad will really like him. I can't promise you that you're going to be an obedient daughter and stay completely strictly in culture. Even if you marry culturally, he's going to be very Americanized, but respectful of where you come from, so daddy will be able to relax a little bit. That's funny. You know what I'm saying? A dog? Do you have a dog?
A little tiny one.
Yeah. It feels like you're not paying enough attention to your dog.
Yeah, I don't.
Your dog does not like that. It's not nice to your dog. You need to spend more time with your dog. You get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. I'm not asking you to spend all of your time with your dog, but goddamn, right? Hello?
Yeah, sure.
You know, just, how do I say this? You have gifts yourself. If you could slow down, you might realize you can hear shit you don't know you can hear, which is what the first book is about. It'll also help you with the writing. The second book is to help you learn how to be young and enjoy being young and still be on target for where you're going. So that way you don't have a stick or too much pot, metaphorically speaking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, I went to a psychic like a while ago, one time with like my friends.
Okay.
And she said that I was gonna find my soulmate at 19, like the end of this year. I don't know, that was kind of
because you turned 20 on the 9th.
Yeah.
Give or take, it might take a little bit longer than that. I think, how I see it, it looks a little different. It looks to me like you find your partner because you go on your journey, and that may be what this conversation is about, is helping you stop being half-assed. Because if you're in alignment with what you're supposed to do, your partner will find you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a shift that happens right now. I don't know if they're going to show up in 2 weeks. That's what I'm saying. But I don't necessarily think that person was way off. We just need to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing so the right person finds you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.